Hello there and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to deploy a Spring Boot API to an actual server. So at this point, I'm sure you've seen or you know how to actually create a Spring Boot API. So how to create controllers, things like that. A full working application. Maybe even know how to, access a database, things like that. So that's great, but what you may be asking yourself is, okay, so I got this running on my machine, right? But all these websites like, Facebook, Google, every website literally is running on some other machine, and we don't actually have to, it's not down sometimes. So what, does Facebook have like a computer, like a laptop sitting somewhere that's running like a Spring Boot server or something? Well, maybe not Facebook because it doesn't use Spring Boot, but you get the idea. Running some server, right? Well, not quite, but technically, yeah, it does have a computer just that's sitting somewhere, and that's just waiting for you to type in facebook.com into that search bar to give you the your feed with all the news and stuff. So yeah, and today we're going to take a look at how you can take your Spring Boot API and actually get that up onto a server. So there are, of course, quite a few ways of doing this. What I would most likely do is have a continuous integration and continuous deployment architecture set up, maybe using Docker along with Jenkins to manage all of this. But that's all going to be very complex, and that's just one way of doing things. There's also a different way of just manually doing it. So that's I would say like the most sort of a modern way of doing it, the coolest way. But another thing you can do is just take, maybe for a smaller project, is just take a jar file, like a Spring Boot jar file with everything embedded inside it, and just run it on a server. We can also just get the code on the server and then just run it without actually compiling, like as a project, just using Maven, just using a Maven command. And then finally, we can create a war file and then just upload that war file to a Tomcat container in the actual server. And then also we can just use Docker as well, so we can create a Docker image, and then without using Jenkins, we can just pull that Docker image on the server and then go ahead and run it there. Or we can use Jenkins to sort of automate the process. So there generally are a lot of different ways to actually deploy this to a server, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing essentially the simplest thing is just creating a runnable jar from Spring Boot with an embedded Tomcat container, and then just getting that on, or actually just creating that actually on a server, and then just running that accordingly. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. But essentially, do know that there are a lot of ways to actually do this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do to start off with completing the tutorial yourself is going to this link here at github.com/arsenichurn/springboot-best REST API. So this is actually very simple. So this is just a starter Spring Boot project with just one endpoint that returns a static string. So that's all it is. It's not difficult at all. So we're going to clone that, and then we're going to use that to actually go ahead and create our API. So let me go ahead and now open up my terminal here. And now, yeah, all right, there we go. Okay, let me make it bigger here so you can actually see. All right, there we go. Let's cd into this that folder there. You can create a folder yourself for this project, just a temporary folder, so that you can then delete it. And then we just here we're just gonna do git clone and then just paste in that URL. All right, and that's gonna clone that in, and there we go. So let's close this and let's open up this deploying a Spring Boot REST API. And there we go. So here we have the project and everything is done there. So now let's open up Eclipse here. Eclipse. All right, there we go. Okay, so that's opening up. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead. You should get this Eclipse launcher. I mean, you've probably used Eclipse at this point. And here, let's just go ahead and do something like, I don't know, maybe, let's see, deploying boot. There we go, something like that. That should do. All right, and let's launch that workspace. Give it a second here to actually do everything. Should really upgrade my system to the Coffee Lake CPUs. All right, there we go. Looking good. Let's go ahead and open up projects from file system, directory. I have it on my desktop. Let's go deploying REST API, and let's open that up. It's going to automatically tell it that this is going to be a, or whoops, yeah, no, it's correct. So this is the correct folder that we cloned, the GitHub project that we cloned. It's in here. There we go. So yeah, let's go ahead. It's going to detect that it's a Maven project and do everything for us. Then you can see here that it's going to take a second here, and you can see it's updating the Maven project. And there we go. So it's a Maven project. It's updated, and everything is ready for us to actually use. So you'll see here that if we go to the pom.xml file, there's nothing difficult here. Let me go ahead and close up some of this stuff so that it doesn't get in the way here, and let me make the font bigger as well. There we go. Okay, so you can see a couple things here. So first of all, we see we have Spring Boot Starter Web and then just Spring Boot Starter Test. If for some reason you weren't able to actually get this working from the GitHub, if you weren't able to clone the GitHub repository, you can just create this project yourself just by pasting in this Maven text. Or just using Spring Initializer. It's what I did. I just use Spring Initializer to create a quick project and just go ahead and create a very basic REST endpoint. And so you can see here that in src main Java, inside we have one controller, a REST controller, which is a request mapping of / and then all we return is this is the best API you've ever seen. So it just returns that text, and then here we just start the actual Spring Boot application, the embedded Tomcat the embedded Tomcat container to run everything on that. Okay, so let's run this very quickly just to show you exactly what's going on here. Let's run this as a jar file, a Java application, and that's going to go ahead and actually run the embedded Tomcat container, and you're going to see that that will actually go ahead and start up our server. Meanwhile, let me get a browser open here. All right, there it is. And here we're actually going to go to localhost 8080, and it should just give us this string back that we have in the controller here. But for some reason right now it's actually, oh, there we go, it's done. So yeah, there we go. In this controller here, it's just going to give us back this text here. So it's starting up here in the console. We can see, let me make this a little bit bigger here. Let me actually move this console maybe down here. All right, there we go. And there we go. You can see it started up. So very nice. And then now we can just test this to make sure that it actually works on our machine. Let's go to localhost port 8080. There we go. And there we go. We just get this is the best API you've ever seen. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see. That's just the text that it returns. So it's a very basic API. So yeah, I just thought I'd keep this project simple to make this as simple as possible so you can actually understand what's going on here. Okay, so now that we got that here, our project running, we actually need to go ahead and deploy it. So the first thing that we're going to do before deploying is actually add in something called a Spring Boot actuator. So here we have the Spring Boot actuator web page where it just contains the information. So it's essentially a guide on the Spring documentation. But essentially what the actuator allows us to do is it just allows us to monitor our application. It allows us to actually just create a bunch of things that's going to help actually manage our applications once it's actually deployed. So we're just going to copy in this dependency here, Spring Boot Starter Actuator. Let's copy that. And now we can just paste this into the pom.xml file. All right, there we go. So right now, let's start up our project here. The actuator isn't actually going to do anything too cool, but we still can see it in action here in a second, though. So let's allow this to start up. I don't know why it should be down here. I don't know why it was up there. All right, there we go. There we go. It started up. All right, looking good. And you can see here that we already have some methods here. We have actuator health, actuator info, and actuator. So we already do have some endpoints created. So let's go ahead and do localhost port 8080 /actuator. Let's start with that, and there we go. So here we can see the actual links, and then here we can do /actuator and then /health. And that's just going to give us the health of the application, status up. So we can also create something really cool that we can create. It's actually just a location using actuator. We can actually create an endpoint to shut down the application as well, because that's more complex than you might think. When it's actually deployed in production. So we can also create an endpoint that you can just go to. Even you can add Spring Security to it to enter some security credentials, and only then you will be able to actually shut down your application. That's also something that we can do with Actuator. But generally, it's a very nice thing to have. There's a lot of things that we can do with it, but it's a nice thing to have when you've deployed your application. So that's just something to know. Okay, so we know how to run our application like in our IDE, so we just ran it. Let's run it again, just so that we can actually, demonstrate again, because maybe we forgot how to run it at this point. And our application worked. Everything's working great. Okay. But how do we actually create the jar that we're then going to, well, actually, no, that we're actually going to run? So right now, actually, what we could totally do is just do the same exact thing here, but on the our server, on another computer that we're rented on a server. And then just clone the project, add the actuator, and go ahead and get it there. But essentially, what we want to do here, though, is something else. So what we're gonna do instead is create a jar, which we're then going to run on the actual server. So to do this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do run as Maven build, and here we're just gonna do clean install. Okay. And what that is going to do is it's going to run the Maven plugin to generate a jar file for us. So let's give it a second here to actually do what it needs to. All right, there we go. And now here in Target, if we show this in System Explorer, you're going to see that we now have this best REST API ever 0.0.0.1/snapshot.jar. And there we go. So that is essentially what we need to get on our actual server and then just run it on that server. So it's as simple as that. Okay, so now let's have a look at actually creating the server. Now, at this point, there are a multitude of servers that we can actually choose from, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to go with DigitalOcean. So DigitalOcean is one of my favorite hosting services, but there are a lot. I prefer DigitalOcean. You could use, I don't know, maybe AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google has I'm not entirely sure in Google's name, but Google has a hosting service as well. And there are a ton, there are a ton of hosting services that you can use, but those are the popular ones. So Azure, AWS, DigitalOcean. These are the popular ones. And I prefer DigitalOcean personally. So let me go ahead and sign into my account here. All right, so here I am in my personal account in DigitalOcean here. And here we'd actually need to create a server in which we're actually going to go ahead and, deploy our application. So let's start off here by going to create, and let's create a droplet here. This is going to be a cloud server, essentially. So here we're creating a server. And let's create it on Ubuntu. This is going to be the operating system for actually, creating our server. And at this point, our application is very simple. So I think we can just use the cheapest one here. So when you do create a DigitalOcean account, you do need to actually, I think you have to pay like $5, but you don't actually have to use those $5 because if you go to my to this GitHub link to the GitHub repository here, you can see there's a referral link. So this is my referral link. You can use that, and then you'll get $10 in credit. So you have to pay like $5, like to start to create an account essentially. But then you keep those in credit, and then you get another $10 in credit. So you have like $15 that you can now use in DigitalOcean currency to rent servers and whatnot. So yeah, you can do that just to try it out, to practice actually deploying applications, because that is what a lot of what programming is deploying stuff correctly. So yeah. Anyway, so now that we're going to choose this 1 GB, 1 CPU, just the cheapest option here, just that you don't go bankrupt learning how to back up things, and you can just choose a location here as well. We don't need any of this stuff here as of now, and we don't need SSH keys either. That's just a whole thing. Okay, so let's choose a host name here. I guess we can keep this host name here. And I think that's actually all. All right, let's create this. Let's gonna go ahead and create it. There we go. Let's give that a chance to actually start up. So you can see now our server is actually starting up. So let's give that a second to start up. All right, and there we go. So you can see it started up. Now at this point, you may be wondering what startup means. Well, essentially when you turn on your computer, it has to do some stuff to get the operating system loaded into memory from your hard disk and do a lot of stuff there. And that's actually what it just did right now. So it essentially turned on the computer. And this right now is just a computer that's somewhere in a data center somewhere. And I think I believe we chose San Francisco. So it's somewhere in San Francisco, sitting there, and we're paying like $5 a month to have it sit there. And we can now use this as a computer. So let's go ahead and click on this. And it has its own IP here. So we have an IP version 4, 142, this IP right here. And we can actually copy this IP. And we can go paste that in, but it's not going to go anywhere. There we go. You can see it doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, that just means that it doesn't go anywhere essentially. So yeah, okay. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and actually access this server and load up our war file onto it. All right. So to actually access this droplet, all we're really going to do is go to console here. Okay, and at this point, we're going to log in as root. Now, there's a fair warning out here. If you don't want to spend about 6 hours typing in your password here, maybe not 6 hours, like 2 minutes typing in your password here, DigitalOcean should have emailed you a very long and terrible root password at this point, and you have to type it in. There's no way to paste it in. You see, you'll try to paste something, but it doesn't work. You can't paste anything in here because it's essentially like hooking up a keyboard and a mouse to your monitor. And we can actually once we're actually in the computer here, we actually load up, even if we wanted, a graphical user interface on here and use it as a actual Linux machine. But we're not going to do that at this point. We're just going to go ahead and actually use it as through a terminal. But we could totally do that. Essentially, though, the problem here is that right now we need to type in this super long password. So if you don't want to do that, I would research using an SSH key, which I didn't use just because I didn't want to leave out like a ton of you. But yeah, that's what you should totally do. You should use an SSH key because it'll save you a lot of time. So yeah, use that, research that. It's not difficult at all. So yeah, I'm gonna spend about 6 hours right now typing in the password. So hopefully you were wise and you chose to use an SSH key. So yeah. All right, there we go. We're finally here. We're in the terminal. So DigitalOcean, not really DigitalOcean, Ubuntu actually requires you to reset your password immediately. So you have to type it and then type it again and then type a new password. So I went ahead and reset it. So that's what you should also do. So now you have to type it in that password again and now enter a new root password. But there we go. After you enter it, I entered 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. So it's not the best password, but I'm gonna delete this as soon as I'm done with the video, though. So yeah. Anyway, so now we're here. Either way, we got it done. All right. So at this point, the first thing we're gonna need to do is install Java. So let's first of all do apt-get update. There we go, and that's just gonna update the apt-get, the built-in package manager. And then after that, we do actually need to install Java. There we go. So now we can just do apt-get install and default-jdk. All right, there we go. That's going to install the JDK. All right, there we go. I already have it installed. I'm not 100% sure why, but we have it installed. There we go. And now let's test to make sure that it actually works. Let's just do Java. Let's give it a second here. All right, and there we go. So Java works. That's good. Let's now also do echo. Echo $, Java _home. And okay, so right now Java home isn't actually set. So let's set Java home now. All right, so at this point we need to actually add the Java home variable. So to find out which variable we actually want to add, we can just do which and then Java. And here we get user bin Java, so that's where it's installed. But what we need to do here is we need to actually do apt-get install nano, which is going to be a text editor that we're going to use to actually edit our environments file. All right, there we go. It appears that it actually does already have it installed. And let's ls here. So there we go. And we're in the home of our application right now. If you're not in the home, then you could just cd ... That's going to cd you up. There we go. So we're in the home. Let's cd into etc. And then let's do nano environment. There we go. So then now we see we have a path here, and then we can also add in on the next line here. We can just do we could just do Java _home equals, and then here we can just do /user bin Java. All right, there we go. And then here we can just write out by doing Control and O. There we go, and enter. And there we go. So wrote 2 lines. Perfect. Now let's exit by doing Control X. All right, there we go. And now we can do source, and then slash etc slash environment. Whoops, not source. SOURC, source. There we go. And now we can do echo $, Java _home. And there we go. Now we get user bin Java. Perfect. Now let's finally install Maven. So apt get install Maven, because you're going to see that right now. If we try to do Maven something, if we do mvn, it's going to do command not found. Yeah. So now we just need to do apt get install Maven. Whoops, what am I doing? Apt dash get. There we go. And that's going to install Maven on our machine. So let's give that a chance to, run. Let's yes here. Yeah. There we go. And that's going to actually install. All right, and there we go. So it's finished, and now we can do mvn. And you're going to see that it's going to give us back a list of commands to actually run. Let's give it a second here. Taking quite a while. Probably there we go. Okay, so you can see here that we're getting a build failure, but that's good. That means that Maven is actually installed. All right, perfect. So now all we have to do is clone the project that we've just done onto this machine, and then go ahead and generate the jar file, and then run that. So pretty simple stuff. So you can see how this is essentially, we're just using a machine in the cloud. All right. So first of all, I believe we don't have Git installed here, or do we? Let's check if we have Git installed. Yeah, we have Git installed already. So let's go back to this Spring Boot REST API on this machine, and let's just do let's show in System Explorer. There we go. And let's open up the terminal here. All right, and then let's just cd into this Spring Boot REST API. All right, there we go. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to go ahead and create your own Git repository, and just actually go ahead and upload this to that Git repository, and then just do git add all, and then git commit options m actuator, since that is what we added, and let's just do git push. And let me make this bigger here. Git push. There we go. And there we go. So it went ahead and pushed, and now we can go to, let's copy the URL here, github.com, and let's go back to our terminal. Let's do ls. Let's cd up to home, and then here we can do make directory. Make directory something like API. All right, there we go. Let's ls. And you see we have this API directory here. Let's cd into that API. Probably not the best idea to put it in the root folder, but whatever. Cd into API, and down here we can just do git clone. And I forgot that we can't paste here, can we? So we're gonna have to, manually type this in. This is gonna be your link to your repository here. So let's do https github.com/any-churn. Again, this will be different for you. /spring spring boot-best REST API. Boot-best REST API. It's capital letters. There we go. All right, let's clone that. That should go ahead and clone it. It's getting there. All right, and there we go. So now you can see that if we do ls, we should have, there we go, Spring Boot-best REST API. So now let's cd into Spring Boot, Spring Boot-best REST API. All right, let's ls. Okay, and now we can just do mvn clean install. And that's going to install it. So let's give that a chance to run. Now, this should take a while since it actually needs to download all the dependencies and stuff onto this machine. So you need to download Spring Boot and pretty much everything. You just need to download it. It needs to download all of that onto this machine. So let's allow it to do that. It should take a while. I'm going to skip here to where it's actually done. All right, and there we go. You can now see we have a build success. Let's ls here. What's going on? We can't ls. There we go. ls. There we go. And let's cd into target. Whoops. Target. There we go. All right, and let's ls here. All right, and there we go. So we can see we have this snapshot.jar, and now we can just do java-jar and best REST API ever -0.0.1 snapshot.jar, and that's going to run the actual embedded Tomcat container and everything. So, whoops, unable to access jar file. Oh, right, okay. The problem here, just because I made a typo, so we just have to change this to not REST API, REST API. So make sure you have the name right here. And there we go. So now that should actually start up the Spring Boot application with the embedded Tomcat container, and everything should start up, and we should actually be able to consume this REST API from anywhere. So let's give this a second to start up here. And there we go. Hopefully, with a little bit of luck, if everything was installed correctly, everything should be running as expected. And now all we have to do is take this our server IP here that we have here. Let's copy that. Let's paste that in, and let's just do 8080. And there we go. You can see this is the best API you've ever seen. And we can now do this from literally anywhere in the world. And perfect. We have successfully actually, deployed our application to a server. Listen, we can now do actuator here. There we go. Actuator gives us all the information here. And then we can just do /help as well. And there we go. Status up. And perfect. So we have now successfully deployed a Spring Boot application to a server. So let me show you what happens essentially here. I can close up this. I can close up this. I can close up all of this. Let's close all of this out of here. We can even close this DigitalOcean here. Everything is closed. Let's close up this terminal as well. Everything is closed. And as you can see here, the server is still up since the actual, server is up. And now if we wanted to stop it, we have to go back into that control panel and, just force quit it or just stop the server itself on DigitalOcean. So yeah, there we go. We have successfully deployed our Spring Boot REST API. Now, of course, there was a very simple example. There wasn't a lot of production-ready features in there, so we could add Spring profiles for logging. We need to add databases. If we're going to be modern, we would definitely use Docker for this to actually make it, actually usable, and so on and so on. So there are a ton of things that we can do, but hopefully now you have a good understanding of how exactly these kind of APIs work and how we can deploy them to a server. So there's nothing really magical about a server. A server is just a computer like any other. It's just something that we usually rent from somebody else, and it's just specifically designed for hosting things sort of 24/7. So yeah, that essentially is how that works. Anyway then, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out, just so much. Make sure to check out some of the other videos as well. There are a ton of very interesting videos on a ton of very interesting topics. Yeah, be sure to do all of that. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Arseni for Eduonix. See you next time.